हेलो, आप गए थे सर?
Hello everyone.
सर वेट फॉर मिनट।
Yeah, sure.
हाँ, कब गए थे सर?
हाँ सर।
सर प्रिंसिपल सर
नहीं, ओपनिंग
नहीं
रिमार्क
आए
मेरा
लगता
रहेगा।
है।
प्रिंसिपल सर थोड़े से दूसरे काम में बिजी है।
ठीक ठीक है, ठीक है। तो निशा मैम को बोल।
हाँ,
निशा मैम शायद कनेक्ट होने को।
एक मैसेज डाल दो ना निशा मैडम को।
हाँ हाँ,
नहीं, मेरी निशा मैडम से बात हो गई।
ओके ओके।
धनजोड़ सर देने वाले ना वोट ऑफ थैंक्स।
हाँ
ठीक है, ठीक, बता दिया मैंने उनको।
हाँ मैम।
वोट ऑफ थँक्स तुम्ही की धनजोडे
नाही,
सर?
धनजोडे सर, धनजोडे सर। मॅम आले ते गेस्ट, तुम्ही झाले ना
हा.
कनेक्ट?
हो हो.
मी सांगतात, अनाउन्स करतो, हे करा. हॅलो, निशा मॅम.
हा. Yes.
ओके ओके, स्टार्ट.
Welcome, sir. Good afternoon, one and all. I, Nisha Maisgoli, on behalf of Nagpur Institute of Technology, welcome to our today's guest, Mr. Sanket Petkar, Principal Amol Deshmukh, sir, HOD Sudhir Kapkate, sir, faculties, and dear student participants, for a webinar on Project Management Fundamentals under the CESA, that is Civil Engineering Student Association. Welcome again, once again to all. Now I request to our HOD, Sudhir Kapkate, sir, please give the opening remark.
Good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished guest for today's webinar, Mr. Sanket Petkar, Senior Consultant, Protiviti Middle East Member Firm, Dubai. HODs from various departments and participants across the India. I, Sudhir Kapkate, HOD Civil Department, NIT Nagpur, welcome all of you for this webinar. Today, we are going to conduct webinar on project management fundamentals. Basically, project management fundamentals, it is the process of leading the work of a team to achieve all project within the given constraint. It contains conception, planning, execution, performance, and close the project. I believe that by participating in this webinar, we are in right place at right time. Together, let us accelerate the exchange of idea and scaling up of good practices. I am confident that you all find new ideas and fresh energy from this webinar. I wish you all a very successful webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Mr. Sanket Petkar, sir. He's working as a senior consultant, Protiviti Middle East member from UAE. Sir has total 10-year industrial experience in civil engineering consulting areas in various firms. Sir has completed his master degree in construction management. Sir has a working experience in risk assurance service, PwC India, trainee executive project planning and control. Sir has worked under Precast India infrastructure and all. So such a great personality we have. Thank you, sir. And now I request to Mr. Sanket Petkar, sir, to proceed further. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. Really pleased to be a part of this webinar and looking forward to have a really good session ahead. Just to start with, I'll start with why exactly I have just choose this topic. The thing is, as you know, I'm aware there are so many students who will be joining us with from different years. The idea is, I was an engineering student. I have completed my engineering, and I can still remember down the line uh, till the last semester. I was really not aware exactly what I want to do, what I want to proceed, how I want to go ahead. Maybe this topic, if you will just after the webinar, once you just listen to it carefully and just be here for some time, you will be able to understand. Maybe will have like to excel in this specific field. Secondly, many of the students will be looking forward for the placements. They will be, once the curriculum is over, they will be going for the interviews. This is one area, which will definitely give a hand on when you will be going for the interviews. Honestly, being a fresher, no one will expect you to have a entire detail of how the project works and everything, but it's always better that you have some handy knowledge. You just have a basic understanding of how the project management cycle is, how the entire project works. And I hope you will just like the session. So going ahead, just as the name suggests, it's project management. So we'll start it with what exactly a project is. Basically, just to begin with, first, I just want to ask you whether everyone can share, can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. And the voice is good, right? It's everything is
Yes,
fine.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
fine. So good to go ahead. So just to begin with a project, it's whether it's a small project, it's a mega project, or it's a entire city. If you are building, irrespective of what, there are four fundamentals, four criterias, which are most important thing in any project. A project basically it is a combination of various tasks for which there is a specific objective which has to be met. That objective has to be made within a specific stipulated time with the agreed cost and with the determined quality. So every project, it will have its start date, a date where the project will commence. It will have its end time when the project you want it to be completed. There will be the exact scope of works. Let's say if you are building a hotel or if you are building a residential building, at that time the scope of works will be how you are going ahead with the construction, how you are planning to start the project at which location, which subcontractors, which contractors, which stakeholders you want to involve in those. There will be a specific cost assigned to every project, a budgeted cost, which has to be made. Let's say it can varies, depends on the project scale. And most importantly, there will be few quality criteria. Let's say in construction, there are OSHA requirements. If you are working in manufacturing, there are ISO requirements. So depending on the region in which your project is, depending on the country, quality standard varies. And the other important factor, which has been emerging like from past 5 years, I'll say, is the health safety factor. Maybe down the line, if you go previously 15, 20 years, HSE was not given much importance. But nowadays, a project is deemed to be successful only when there are no injuries in the project, basically, when there are no life harms in the project. And then apart from all these four factors, that is also the important constraint. Now, how the project is considered to be successful, as you can see in the pyramid, the first thing is the project it's considered to be successful only when the execution is done as per the plan. The execution is done based on the calculated time as well as within the budgets. Secondly, you are delivering what you have promised. You are ensuring that the end customer is happy. So if you can just simply take the example of Nagpur Metro, which is going on, there is a set objective, there is a set timeline, there is a set budget within which the project has to be completed. There has been already a defined scope of works, how the work will go ahead. The work is divided into several parts. It's not that the project will commence at once, project will start at once. There will be different phases which will be completed, which will be open for public. And this is how every project, it's being planned. Third is how the quality of project is being maintained. It's again the most important factor. You have your set standards of the quality, which are already, agreed before you start the project. There is always a project quality plan for any project, and there has been quality assurance, quality control against what work you are doing. Secondly, the fourth one, whatever objectives you have been set, whatever your organizational needs are. So let's say if my company is starting any project, there will be a specific objective, there will be a specific, criteria that, okay, with this project, maybe we'll become the #1 company in this territory. Or there can be separate goals, several goals that will be the company who will be having the highest revenue for an entire region. So the needs varies as well as, the demands varies. So once you meet all these criterias, that's then how it's the process, the project is called, it's the successful projects. So one is your execution, definitely. One is how you are managing your time, how much cost. Let's say if you have estimated 500 crores for any project and you are completing it within the budget, then it's successful. If you are handing over the project within the stipulated time, that is successful. And if you're maintaining all the quality assurance and all the quality requirements which you have promised to the end customer, then it seems to be successful. Going forward for the next, now, what is exactly a project life cycle? Now, every project will go through this, 4 stages. And these stages, they are definitely different from one another, but in some or other way, they are connected to one another too. So a project lifecycle, it starts from right to initiation to the closer stage. And in between this, you will have to, there will be so many problems where you need to, there will be so many risks, there will be so many problems you will be facing, which you have to mitigate at the end. Basically, a life cycle covers the initiation stage, then comes the planning stage, then comes the execution and the closure stage. As you can just see in this diagram, the initial stage is the the foremost important factor. Basically, what happens is whenever you are doing any project, there has to be a need for the project. Now, just for example, we'll just stick practically to the Nagpur Metro. There was a need for people commuting. There were need for the public transport, and that's why the project has been there. It's been signed by government, and this is all the initial stage where you do the feasibility study, you do all the topographical surveys, you prepare your business plan, basically, that how you think that this project is going to benefit the people as well as benefit the government and benefit all the stakeholders. So all this analysis is being done in the initiation stage. Once the initiation stage is done, so let's say if you got all your approvals from government, if you got all your NOCs from the fire department, from the environmental department, and then once you are good to go, and once this your proposal, basically, it's being accepted by the government as well as any concerned authority, then you go ahead with planning the project. Now, planning the project is again the most important aspect, I'll say, because this is the phase where which will the entire project success will be dependent on. If you're not planning the project properly, the project might fail. There might be some delays in the project resulting in the losses, and definitely disappointing the end customer. Once you have planned everything, then comes the execution stage where you are hiring contractors, subcontractors, various consultants. You are executing the work which was planned. Okay. In this stage, you are also making sure that you are controlling the project, you are monitoring it on regular basis, you are checking whether the actual work is, how the actual work is against the plan, how the cost is being met. So this is basically just the overview of execution stage. And then comes the closer stage where you will close the process, where you will be ensuring that all the contractors, subcontractors in the projects, they are being paid. Plus all your criteria are made, the project has been handed over successfully, and everyone is happy in the end. This is how the entire life cycle of the project look like. As I've mentioned, initiation stage is the first one, which basically signals the commencement of any project. So you start the project, then you plan it accordingly. You plan it depends on whatever the scope of works you have been agreed to with the stakeholders, with the authorities. Then you execute those process. Basically, your planning is put into action in the implementation stage, which is also called as the execution stage. You carry out tasks as per what is being agreed. And once the execution is done, then the closing stage comes. This is how the graph which will show you how the life cycle is. So the graph, it states the timelines for each phase, and the bottom image which you can see, it represents the important documents or the important factors which you have to consider in every stage. Now, starting with initiation, as you can see this area, if you can see the graph here, the initiation stage is the first most process. As I've already mentioned, this is the process where you are getting all your approvals, and basically this is the hidden stage in every project, because the people involved are really specific. You have just not started project. Initiation stage will decide whether you are going ahead with the project or not. Now, there have been so many projects which have been stopped just because those were not feasible, or those were harming the environmental factors, or there can be so many things that the project was not commenced because of any varied reasons. So this is, I'll say, the initiation stage is the most hidden part of any project. And you can see some curve is also in the planning stage. That is because, let's say if there have been any changes, in the planning. So for example, when I was working in one of the projects, so we have initiated it, we have planned it as a entire residential tower for the people, for the residents. But down the line, there was some issue with the project, and the project was held for around 5-6 years. Now, 5-6 years is a huge period, where the government changes. Basically, if you are, if in our country, the government changes, then if it's a developing nation, just like India, if it's a developing city like Nagpur or Mumbai, Pune, the whole phase of the city changes, and definitely the demand changes. So down the line, when we have started the project after 5 years, we have realized that there were so many, companies which are planning to be in the specific location where we want to have a residential project. And that's how then we realized that we can make it as a mixed use project where it will be a residential tower. Let's say if it's a 50-story tower, we have planned it that the first 10 floors will be for the offices and the next will be for the residents. And that's how, there is some factor where you can play with at the initial stage of the project. So this is how the initiation stage, and the most important document for any project at the initiation stage is the project charter. So I'll be explaining the contents of project charter in the details of the initiation stage. So it's mandatory, and it's definitely required that you should have this project charter, at this stage. Then comes the planning stage. As you can see, it's right from the initiation till the closure. And that's why I've already mentioned this is the most important stage of any project, because it's how you plan, it's how you're going to execute. And if your planning is not, that perfection, basically, if you have not planned your project for the worst scenario, it's not going to succeed. As you can see, like, because of the COVID situation, many projects have been held, they have been stalled for like a year or two. And that's why, like, it's always important that you should take those delays, take those costs into considerations when you are planning any project. You have to always understand the circumstances which are not in your control. Basically, what we call it as a force majeure conditions. There can be floods, there can be some political issues, and there can be again few natural calamities for which you have to plan any project just so that the deliverable, the 8 deliverable, it will be met. After that comes the execution. Before that, sorry, the important documents in the planning stage. So planning stage is basically involve, you'll prepare the exact detailed scope, what exactly you want, what works you want to proceed with this project. There will be a basic work breakdown structure, how you want your work WBS to be there for the project. We'll be discussing all those things in detail in the next slides. And there will be Gantt chart. Gantt chart is basically a project schedule. There are nowadays so many softwares in market, which have been used. So down the line, before 10 years, the project planning, everything was done in Excel. But the disadvantage of using Excel is what happens is when you're planning a specific project, which is going to last for a decade, the cumulative cost effects or cumulative time effects, those cannot be seen, in the Excel. And that's why there are many softwares in market, just like Microsoft Project, Primavera, which are being used by construction companies just to ensure that, the project is going on as per the agreed timelines and as per the agreed cost. Once your planning is done, then comes the execution stage. So execution stage basically is you are executing the works, what you have planned. You are appointing the contractors, you are appointing the consultants, you are appointing all the investors and everything for this stage. The main reports the main documents in this is the forecast. Definitely how you forecast, how you want your project to move ahead, as per the plan. What are the status in execution stage? As you can see this blue area, so it's mix of execution plus monitoring and controlling. So execution stage involves you are doing your work, you are executing it, as well as you are monitoring it. So let's say if I want to start my project, which is in the next week. So once my contractor has, mobilized everything, he is there on the site, he has set up his base camp, and now he is starting the work. Now you need to ensure that the work is being carried out as per the plan. So there are a few projects, what we call as, the high-end projects, or which specifically in oil and gas sectors, specifically in tunneling, which are such a short-term project where, each activity is being monitored and every hour is being monitored against what you have planned. So that's why this stage is again, the important factor in, just if there is a delay, if there is a cost overrun, how you are overcoming it, it gives you a slight play in this section of the phase of the project. Coming to again control is how like you'll be preparing reports for each activities which you have performed. You will be tracking your goals. You will be tracking every objective, whether it is being met or not. There will be budget tracking. There will be a cost monitoring as well as the time monitoring in this stage. And the final stage is closing. Definitely when you have successfully completed all these phases comes a closing. Again, an important factor, like the thing is, there are many stakeholders involved in every project. So let's say I am being a client, I need someone who will invest in my project. So a scenario is when you compare the projects in 90s and when you will compare the projects in current scenario, basically what used to happen is the quantum of money being invested in every project has, increased significantly. And along with the budget and along with the cost, the risk also has, increased significantly. And that's why if you will see some projects in 90s, you have so many companies, many good companies who went bankrupt just because of one project failure. So the mitigation action against this is now what you can see, let's say if it's coming again to the Nagpur Metro, there is just not one investor in Nagpur Metro. So a state government is putting into money, a central government is putting into money. There have been many FDIs who are, putting into money. So what happens is if your budget is 500 crores, you are not dependent on one single investor. You have 10 investors who are, plugging in money from different sources, plugging in money for a specific set of objective. And that's how you mitigate the risk. And in closing stage, it's equally important that whatever objectives a stakeholder or investor or any contractor consultant has said, those are met. So the closing process involves your, ensuring that all the accounts have been, ended up, all the contractors have been paid on time. The investors are happy. They have got, the returns which they were expecting before the start of project. And the end user is happy using the project or using the outcome which you are performing. So this is how basically a life cycle summary looks like. Now we'll be going into details of the first stage is the initiation stage. Now, as I said, this is the most hidden stage because what happens is you don't see the project at this, at this stage. The project is still not on ground. The project is at the top level, it's with the strategy, it's with the government. And once all those approves it, then it, it comes on ground and then you start the work. So the most important stage in this is the business case. Now, every project, you will need a business case. So that's where you need your finance team, your strategy team, you need your legal team, to come up and to prepare a business case. So basically, every project will have its objective. Let's say if I'm building a residential tower, my business case will be how much money I want to plug in the project, how much returns I'll get, at what specific time I'll get return, and basically what approvals I want it to be in place, and how feasible is my project. Now, how feasible is project, that depends on your feasibility study. Now, feasibility study is not only for the commercial part. So commercial is basically your finance part, your returns part, but it also comes to technical. So when you are talking about feasibility study, you need to check whether the location of your project is feasible, whether your demands will be met with the project, whether the soil conditions or the topographical regions or the geographical condition is equally important for the project, and whether the amount which you are investing is going to give you in return. So basically, no investor will want his money to be stuck in such project where he won't get return. So that's why the risk for investing in a project is definitely higher, and in turn the returns are also higher. So a feasibility study, once you prepare a feasibility reports, once you understand that okay, this project seems feasible, it's meeting all the criteria, it's definitely not harming the environment, the geographical conditions are met, the topographical survey, the soil conditions are made, plus the business case, it's good, we'll be getting return, plus the economy, it will definitely boost the economy, we'll be, again, it will create employment for so many people. So all these factors, those are taken care into the project initiation stage. Now, once this is done, once you get all the approvals from the government or for the required concerns, once the government approves it, once the environmental department approves it, then you start planning the project. I mean, just the initial, it's in the initiation stage only, where you prepare a project charter, as I've mentioned earlier. Now, this project charter, it will cover everything at a high level. So the project charter, it will have this few things. Basically, it will have a problem statement. Now, any project is being made because there is a need of it. So let's say Nagpur Metro is being built because there was a demand, because there was a need for such such thing to be there, and it knows that okay, once the metro is done, it's become easier. The public transport become easier, the economy will be boosted, the people traveling, for them it's going to be easier, the connectivity is going to improve. So that's how the problem statement has been involved. It is being first discovered that yeah, this is the problem. Currently Nagpur, compared to other cities like Mumbai, Pune, doesn't have the strong public transport. It's currently just dependent on bus. And if you are going ahead, if you want it to be a smart city, so having metro is the first stage. So that's how it's. So once the problem statement is involved, then there will be business case. You will have set goals for each project. Then it will have the timelines. It will have the timelines, right? How long the project will take. It can start from a year. It can be completed in a decade. There will be specific scope. So basically, how you want the project to be, whether it is underground or whether it is overhead metro, how you're planning to execute the project. So basically comes the last factor is team members, how many contractors you want to get involved, whether you want to create a separate organization. Just as Delhi Metro, then when Delhi Metro was created, Delhi Metro is itself a different entity, it's a different organization now. So this is how it comes at the initial stage where you prepare a project charter. So basically, this is a document, whenever, let's say, if there is a project manager at the initiation stage, and maybe he completed his duration in the company and he resigns, and then there is another new project manager comes. So it's always important that you should have, one document which will give you a high level of entire project, and this is the document. Definitely, this is the initial stage. You also need to again update it based on if your goals have changed, if your ideas are changed, or if you are getting any new demand and you want to make it specific to this. So again, a project charter this is how it looks like. Then once your charter is prepared, you identify which team you want. Like you want the right skills of people, you depend, okay, whether you want a local people to be working, or you also want, few foreign peoples to be joining in project because of the expertise they have. Then you decide where you want your project office to be. Like now, sometimes there is a head office. That's what you see. Every organization has its head office. Then it has its regional office. It will have its site office. So this is a stage where you will be, thinking about these things, thinking about which team you want, where you want your office, and then you are going to review all the factors. And if you successfully manage, to pass this stage, then you start planning the stage, and this is how the next stage looks like. This is again the ongoing process, as I said, planning. So the factors you have to consider here is in the figure you can clearly see it includes scope. So basically, the charter will have the scope, but it will have a high level scope. Now, this is where planning is when I know that I want to build a metro in Nagpur. Now, this is the planning stage where I'll plan, okay, which contractors I want. Now, I want a contractors who has a past experience in metro, who has delivered the metro project successfully. Now, since the quantum of project is huge, I just don't want one contractor, to run the entire metro. So what I do is I divide my project into several packages. I assign those packages to a specific contractor. I assign them, I insure them, I prepare contract agreements with them, and significantly says that I want this one package to be, completed within a year, within this cost, with this set standard of quality and the safety factors. So that's how, you bifurcate a mega project into the packages. You just, divide it into various contractors, and that's how you mitigate the risk. So this stage, it will involve right from preparing contract agreements for the contractor, awarding them the contracts. Okay, then, again, planning how much time you require, how for the project completion. This is entirely based on the experience which you have from the previous projects. So let's say Nagpur Metro, when it was created, the planning team might have considered the factors, might have considered the geographical conditions, might have, even referred to the previous successful metro projects in India. That's how they come to the specific time where they feel that, oh, we can complete this project in 5 years timeline. The estimated cost for this project will be this much. And so this is how you plan, the project. So in the planning stage, whenever you are planning it, you prepare a project management plan. That's how this is again a one document. Now, once you have project charter, then there is a project management plan. Now, the project management plan, it will have everything. So it will have the detailed scope of works. It will have the time, cost, quality, every factors. So the project management plan, it's been given by the contractor who is executing the work. So let's say I'm a client who wants this specific building, to be ready in a year. And then I have awarded a contract to a contractor. So the contractor's responsibility is he is going to give me a plan which will have all these factors into consideration. So I'll be just sharing a project management plan from one of my just previous projects. I hope you can see the screen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So this is how the content of the project management plan looks like. So this is the project management plan. It has to be prepared by a contractor who is executing the work. He'll clearly mention the summary, the contract data. He'll mention the deliverables in it. There will be organizational chart on, how he wants the project, which people he wants. He'll be setting those organization chart in the plan, where he'll state, okay, he wants this 5 departments. This is how the hierarchy is. And the project management plan, it will have everything right from your health safety standards. As you can see, it will have the health safety guidelines. It will have site establishment, how he wants to install his sites. It can be porta cabin, or sometimes, those are temporary steel structures too. He can prepare a labor camp, plus he needs to also prepare, if it's a remote location, you also have to consider that your site executives as well as your managers will be also staying at the site. So this is how those all factors are covered in site establishment. Then comes the equipment mobilization. Every project, every mega project, even it's a small project, requires the equipments for its successful completion. So whether he is renting those equipments, whether the equipments have been provided by clients, how he is going to mobilize them. All this schedule is going to be a part of this plan. Then comes the design. Now, sometimes design is in the scope of contractor, sometimes it's in the scope of client. Uh, in some projects, we'll find there are specific design consultants who will give the design to the contractor to execute. So all these factors are a part of a project management plan, where he is basically just telling the client that this is how I'm planning to execute my project. Now, once this PMP plan, has been approved by the client, then you start executing the project. So it's like when you have covered the entire thing, when you have got a complete clarity on, okay, this is how you are going to go ahead with the project. This is how you are dividing your project into, so many phases. Then you comes to the execution phase. So again, this is the integrated planning. This figure will give you, the exact clarity of what happens in planning. So there is an initial planning stage. Now, it's not necessary that whatever you have planned, all your project is going to go ahead with whatever you have planned. There can be so many changes in the plan. There can be change in government, as I already mentioned. There can be any calamities for which you have to refine your plan. So basically, the initial planning is what you do. You capture the entire scope of work. You capture every constraint. You capture all the government approvals. You consider everything. You identify stakeholders. Now, stakeholder is basically a term which involves all the people in the project. So stakeholder includes your investors. It also includes your government, definitely. It includes the contractors, the subcontractors, the design consultants, project management consultants, and so many. So this is how the stakeholder, you identify the stakeholder, you identify their expectations, you identify the risk in the project, you again identify the key milestones. Key milestones is basically how you want your project to, you divide the projects. So let's say a metro project, you want a key milestone. The first milestone of the project is opening of this specific phase. So let's say this area's metro is being completed, and that's how your key milestone will be. So every project will have its set milestones. So milestones is when basically a checkpoint, whenever you are traveling on the road, you find several checkpoints. The purpose is you have to ensure the journey where you are going, the destination you are going it safely. And so in the project, basically the destination where you want to reach, you are ensuring that all the time cost which you have planned, you are meeting those. So that's why milestones are basically the checkpoint, where you check specific the project. Okay, the project at this stage, it's ahead. It's ahead of the cost. It's ahead of the budget. Or sometimes you say that, okay, there is a cost overrun. We have consumed so many costs. The cost overrun is huge. So let's say there is 5% increase in the cost what you have planned. And once that milestone is being achieved, then you plan it. Okay, if there is a 5% increase in the cost, I still have this many phases remaining. I'll try to just deduct my cost. I'll try to optimize the cost. So that's why milestones there are milestones in every project. So you identify those milestones, you develop your strategy, you develop how you want your work to be done, you develop a work breakdown structure in this case, you prepare your project schedule, you prepare your budgets, you estimate the cost for this specific phase. So this is how the initial planning is done. So everything related to time, cost, quality, safety, these 5 factors is being taken care in this stage. Now, if there are any changes in the project, so for example, because of COVID situation, whatever projects were going in entire world have been held because it was it was the circumstance which was not being considered by anyone. Now, here how you have to refine your plans. Now, there will be so many obstacles, depends on the geography. So there can be a government change, there can be again a natural calamity, there can be floods, there can be other natural disasters which you have to consider when you're planning. Now, once you think that, okay, now my initial plan cannot work, now I have to plan it accordingly to the current situation. That's how you refine your plan. So as you can see the cycle, this is continuously interlinked. So you have planned something initially, you are again refining it, and again following the same. And basically, once you do this, the output of the phases, you will get your execution plan. You will get all your plans and like the quality plan, the health safety plan. You will get your project schedule, which will be ready for the execution team to follow. So the planning team's the first objective is they will give a clarity to the execution team how they want to execute the project, which task they have to perform first, which risk they have to consider, and what is the timeline and the cost for the project. So this is how the planning stage it covers. Then comes the execution stage. Now basically there is so much data in this slide, so first thing I want you to just focus on this life cycle. I want you to first don't concentrate on the figure as of now. So in execution, as I've already mentioned, there will be planning done. The work is outlined, okay, that you have to perform these 5 things. The first thing will be A, B, C. This is how the sequence is being identified, and you execute it. Now, once you execute it, then comes the monitoring and planning of it. So now, as you can see in the figure, the first thing is the scope or change rebaseline. So your scope is identified. You have planned it. As we discussed in the last slide, there is initial planning, there is a plan refinement, there is output. Now you control it. So control basically involves you gather all the information. So the gathering information is basically the execution team, they'll get it from the planning team. So the planning team will give them the schedule, they'll give them the time, they'll give them, okay, this is the scope of works, this which you have to complete in this duration with this cost. That's how the planning control team, they will analyze the data. They'll ensure, okay, this is how we are going to execute the project. Now, once you start, executing the project, at some stages you will like to monitor it because you just need to check it whether it's going as per plan or not. That's where you access it. That's where you check the budget versus actual cost, as well as budget versus actual time. And let's say if your project is behind the schedule, or if it's behind, if it's overrunning the cost, then how you determine, okay, I need few corrective actions. If I didn't take this action, there is going to be impact on project. So that's how, if you can see, once you determine the actions and impact, it will again go to the gather information stage. And that's how the control process continues. Now, basically in control process, you will be preparing daily reports, there will be monthly reports, there will be dashboards, so many reports just to ensure that, okay, the project is how it is looking against plan, how we are executing it against what we have planned. So this is how basically the execution stage is. It looks like you will be preparing reports on it. You will be getting clarity on the scope of works which you need to perform. There will be set deliverables which will be measured against what you have planned. Then comes the closing stage. Now your initiation is done. You have planned your project, very, very well. And that's how you were able to execute your project very well. Now, all the objectives were being met. There might be some delays, there might be some cost overruns, but still now your project is ready to hand over, or your project is ready to hand over to the end customer or hand over to the client, etc. And that's how the close stage looks like. So the close in it signifies, C signifies contract, L signifies lessons, O is organizational documentation, S is success, and E is evaluation. So contracts is basically, as I already mentioned, there are so many stakeholders involved in the project. So closures, first thing is you want to end those agreement with every contractor, every subcontractor, every stakeholder. So let's say if I am the contractor working for Nagpur Metro, when Nagpur Metro is being closed, I have to ensure that all my payments are being cleared, all my invoices have been raised, I have got all the money. If there are any claims, if there are any disputes, all are settled. I'm happy and end customer is happy. So that's how you are going to end every contract. Secondly, lessons learned. Now there can be now sometimes the project lasts for 10 years, it lasts for 15 years, it's even for 1 year. Now in this stage there have been so many factors which affect the project. Now for example, the project which was started in 2019 and about to be completed by 2020 or 22. Now each and every project was delayed because there was favorable circumstance of COVID-19, which has resulted in delay. So lessons learned is how like you are, overcoming that specific unfavorable conditions. So every project will have its lessons learned, where you will be defining, okay, this is how like it was supposed to be, and for the next project I want this thing to be like this. So basically what you learned from your mistakes is how you are going to put into one document which you are going to use it for another project. So basically let's take an example of Nagpur Metro. It's a huge project. Now, as I've already mentioned, the mega projects, they are divided into several packages. Now, the idea of dividing the entire project into packages is because you want to distribute the risk, not only the financial risk, but also the quality of work which you have to maintain. So let's say if the one package of Nagpur Metro is completed, now there might be some mistakes, which execution team has done. Maybe once they have completed the project, they have realized, oh, we could have planned this differently, or the design could have been different, we could have improved it. That's why this lessons learned is there. That's where once you complete an entire process, you note it down, okay, these things we want to ensure that in the next packages or in the next projects which will be commencing, we don't want these things to happen, we don't want our mistakes to happen. And that's how the lessons learned register is being prepared. Then comes your definitely organization documents. You hand over each documents to the end user. So let's say when the Nagpur Metro will be commenced, there will be exact guidelines, which will be there to the customers that, okay, this is how the rules are, this is how the regulations are. The handover will be done to government and all these things. So let's say if it's a residential projects, you will be handing over the apartments to the clients, and they'll be approving it. They'll be signing a document that, okay, whatever was planned, whatever was being committed to us, we have received it. So that's how the handover is being done. And definitely the success, yes, if each and every stakeholder is happy, that's how you call your project to be successful. One more thing, what is being done in the closure stage is you evaluate the performance. Now, it's equally important as an organization when you are talking about several 10-15 projects which are running in. It's important that you evaluate each contractor against work, not necessarily someone who is good in one specific objective or one specific. Let's say if it's L&T is good into preparing dams, and now it's the renowned company, it's actually good in everything. But there can be few companies who are excelled into a specific thing. Let's say my company is very good in providing or conducting internal audits. Now, when I evaluate the performance of that company, I use the same thing whenever any new project is coming in. I refer it, okay, this specific company has really done a great work in past, or this specific contractor was really good. He has completed his project in time within the stipulated cost, and we are going to consider him for the next project. So this is how the closer stage it covers everything. Now, coming to the scope management. Now, we have now completed all the phases of the project, right from initiation, planning, your execution, and definitely the closing stage. Now, before going ahead, I just want to ask, are there any questions in this? Definitely, we are going to have a Q&A session at the end, but if you have, like anyone has need any clarifications on it, I'm happy to answer it now. Okay, I'll consider that there are no questions as of now. We'll just go ahead. Maybe if there are any, you can anytime,
Hello.
the chat box.
Hello. Yes, sir. Vishal already asked how to manage the cost of the mega project.
Okay, fine. Now the cost of mega project usually it's being managed. Now every project it will have an estimated cost. Now you will have an estimation team which will estimate the cost. Now let's say if it's considering the example of Nagpur Metro, the cost estimation of Nagpur Metro is being done based on the geographical areas, based on, let's say, there are previous projects in country. So let's say they might have considered Delhi Metro, they might have considered Mumbai Metro. So there is a budgeted cost, there is a budget assigned. Now this estimation is done. Now you execute the project. Now once you are executing it, so let's say if I have assigned packages, now if it's a 500 crore project, Now I'm assigning packages to 5 contractor. I'm dividing it into 5 things. So each will have 100 crores budget. Now I'm again tracking what he has done. So let's say if the contractor basically is invoicing me for 10 crores, it means out of 100 crores, he has consumed 10 crores. So your plan was 100, your actual is 10. And that's how you monitor the cost. So at the end of the project, the the best scenario is if it's 100 versus 100. If it's 100 versus 99, it's a really good thing. You have saved 1 crores. If it's 100 versus 110, then this is how you have increased your cost. Basically, answering to your question, how you are tracking the cost. Now, usually it's done by the finance team. Plus, there are so many project management softwares which I'll be just giving a brief you about. So there are softwares like Primavera. There are softwares like Microsoft Project, where you track the cost of the project. So each task will have, so every task, let's say if I want to excavate, I want to have an excavation of this specific ground. Now there is already a budgeted cost for excavation of the project. And when you're executing the work, for every task, there is a cost assigned. So every task, there will be resources, there will be material required, and for every task there is already a budgeted cost, and that's how you plan it, and that's how there will be actual cost, and that's how you compare it both two. So a Microsoft project of Primavera, it will have a earned value analysis management. That's what we call. So basically in construction project, EVM tool is used for monitoring the cost. It is earned value management. So basically what happens is you already have a cost. Now, once you have task A, I'll just share my screen here. I'll just tell you, this is the interface of the Microsoft project. I hope you can see it. So let's say if I've created A task, I have created B task. Okay. Now what happens is, now A task, it will ask me the duration. So let's say if I enter 3 days here, I want to start this, maybe it started, we'll consider the back date, let's say it started on 5th May. Okay. And then I want it to finish by 27th May. Now A, then there is a B task. So basically I want this task to be after A. Now each task will have its resources, as you can see in the tab. Okay. Now let's say if I want to specify the people and equipment for the project, this is where I'm assigning the resources. So let's say there are labors. Okay. And there will be, let's say, crane required. Okay. All these things. As you can see, the standard rates are here. Now you enter this rate. So let's say if it's per hour, or you enter the rates for crane, let's say it will be one-time cost. So I can change this thing. I can add the rates in it. Now, once you add the rate, all this will be reflecting in your Gantt chart, which I'm just, yeah. So this is how labor, when you add your entire cost in it, this is how every task will be, will be assigned with a specific the resources as well as the cost. So that's how you are going to track your cost. So as you can see here, it's this task has finished no earlier than constraint. It's showing it will have its specific cost. As I have shown you that I have assigned 2 resources for this cost. There will be cost for it. Now there is again a start and finish date. Now what I'll do is I can add one more column here, and let's say if I'm adding it as the actual finish. Okay. Again, you can see, if you ask me about the cost monitoring, so you can see here is the actual cost also, as well as there will be a planned cost column also. So anyway, as I've shown you, the resources I have added is crane, and let's say there is a labor. So let's say for this task, the budget was 1 crore. Now I'm adding actual cost here. Okay. Automatically, when I'll track this, the cost will be here. I mean, it will automatically calculate, because the resources which we have defined it on per hour basis. We have also defined the, start and finish of this specific task. So again, I'll add one column here. I'll add a column as, let's say, will start is at an actual finish. Now, when you can see the finish was 27th, now maybe my project has been delayed. It was delayed by, let's say, 20 days and it's 17. Automatically, it will show you this line, okay, that, you have extended the project duration. Now, once this A has been delayed, my B is linked to it, as you can see. Now, if my B was supposed to be planned at, let's say, 5th, now it will start at 18. You got it? So because this was finished on 17, and that's why the B is starting on the next day, and this is how you are running the cost. And then whatever resources also. So let's say for initial duration was 5 days. So 5 days cost was 10 crores, but now you have extended your duration by 20 days, and that 10 crores has now been increased to 30 crores. So this is just a generic view. There are detailed softwares for this, how you monitor the cost. There is a specific cost estimation team who will be estimating the cost. There will be reports, daily reports. There will be dashboards, which will specify how much cost has been incurred at the current stage and how much budget is being left. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now going ahead with scope, as I mentioned, scope is again, you just have to ensure that whatever plan you have or whatever activities you want to perform it in a specific way. So that's how this involves it involves collection of requirements. There are specific requirements against each project. You define the scope, you define the WBS against it, and once done, you verify it. Now, the most important factor in scope management is WBS. WBS is basically a term for work breakdown structure. Now, every project, it will have a set of activities. Now, work breakdown structure is the first thing is how you want to divide a work into. So it will be definitely a deliverable oriented, which will have, you need to create your deliverables. Each deliverable has its objective. The WBS, it will cover all the scope, and there will be a scope statement for it. Entire scope will be further divided into separate single source, and that's how the WBS will look like. This is how it will look like. So basically there will be one project. So let's say, for example, each project will have these three departments: engineering, procurement, construction. So you have your one project. The main work is the completion of project. Now you are breaking it down into different entities, different structures. Let's say engineering. Now what you want in engineering is you want a basic engineering. Basic engineering involves your schematic designs. You want detail engineering where you will be detailed drawings come into picture. You want project engineering where the shop drawings which are submitted by the contractors will come into place. So basically engineering is divided into these three stages. This is how you are going to commence the work on engineering. Once done, you will come into procurement. Procurement is basically where you are awarding the contracts to the contractor. So as the first stage is placement of order on vendors. So I have my design ready. Now I want to build a house. My design is ready, which is covered in my WBS of engineering. Now I want to award a contract to contractor. I want someone who can build the house for me. So that's how I'm awarding a contract to him. I'm specifically mentioning I want this house to be prepared in 1 year with this cost. That's how the procurement team will work on. They'll release him the purchase order. They'll agree the terms and conditions with the contractors. Then comes the manufacturing delivery. Definitely, when you are building a house, we'll be requiring materials. This is the stage, where you decide on, okay, I want the material to be delivered like after a month. So let's say if I'm preparing a house, I want the steel already to be at the site. Then you pay the contractor in advance where he mobilizes all the materials, your steel, concrete, everything is in site, your materials are in place, and that's how you execute the work. Again, another thing in procurement is the equipments. There are various small tools to the mega equipments, everything. So this has been covered in the procurement stage. So this is just a generic, simpler WBS. The WBS are huge. For it varies from a small project to the mega project. This is how a generic WBS will look like. So after completing the procurement, you will be coming to construction. Now the first stage in construction, how you want to divide it. So this is basically any contractor. First he will do the mobilization. Basically what he'll do, he'll set up his base camp. He'll call all his laborers. There will be a labor camp. He'll ensure that all the facilities are there for whoever is working at the site. Then he'll create his mobilization plan, basically, which will be approved by client. Then he'll start the work. Now, again, work when you're preparing a house, it's not just about structure. Now you start with foundation, you start with basically you start with substructure, superstructure. Again, in superstructure, there is civil works, then there can be piling work, and there can be structural steel works, there is finishing works. So this is how a overall WBS has to cover. As you can see here, it will cover everything right from your foundations till your facade, till your lightings, each and everything. So this is again an important factor which is covered during the planning stage. You define a WBS, like how you want to execute the project, because this gives you a clarity of these are the tasks which we need to perform for any specific project. So this is how the scope, this is how these are the major chunks in the project scope management. Coming to the time management. Now, time management is basically your project schedule. So what I have shown you in Microsoft Project now is what you track. So the project management softwares, they will not only cover the time, but they'll also, track the cost as well. So project time management, it will ensure the timely completion of the project. It will ensure that the project is commencing, at the right time and it's ending at the right time. There will be a budgeted time against, there will be a budget which we'll be tracking at this stage. Basically, it comes with the progress. Now, let's say there will be actual timeline which is being, tracked against what you have planned. This steps again involve the preparation of your progress reports. So what happens is, in time management, first you define the activity as I have shown you. So define activities, then you sequence it, then you estimate the resources, as I think you can relate it to what I have just shown you in the software. So again, I'll just go to it. So first we have defined this activity. We have defined its duration. We have defined when it will start, when it will finish. We have also defined which resources it will require. And along with the resources, once we have entered the resources, we have also defined the cost associated with it. Then we have linked this, okay, I want B to commence after A. So this is just two activities. There will be set of 1,000 activities for a project, and you perform the same thing. You repeat the same thing for each activity. So that's how the time management has been done. So you define it, you sequence it, you estimate the resource, you give the durations to it, you develop a schedule, and then you control it. You just track it against the actuals. Now, these are the steps. I think again, what I have shown you in the software, it will be easier for you to understand. Now, firstly, there will be a project objective. Now, once your objective is set, WBS you have prepared, what we have discussed in the last slide, that, okay, you want this work to be performed. There will be three separate teams. There will be my engineering team, procurement and construction team. Engineering team will prepare designs. That designs will be given to procurement team. My procurement team will prepare a contract based on the designs. And once the contract is ready, my procurement team will hand over that contract to my construction team. And based on the contract, my construction team, will commence the work. So this is how once your WBS is prepared. Now here you prepare a project schedule. So project schedule is what we have seen in the Microsoft project. There will be a list of 1,000 activities. You will be assigning a duration to it. You will be assigning a cost to it. And once that is done, you will be assigning the sequence, how you want to be. So basically, it always, the substructure which is first, you will start excavating first. Once your excavation is done, then you will start, if the piling is required, you will do piling. You will prepare your substructure. Once your substructure is complete, you prepare your superstructure. So superstructure, again, it involves the structural works. Once all your building is ready, then you do the finishing works. Meanwhile, there are MEPs, there are mechanical, electrical, plumbing connections. So all these activities, they are placed in one specific software which they are linked with, and that's how based on that you assign the resource allocation to it. You allocate a resource, you allocate a constraint to it. Now, what exactly is constraint? Now, let's say if I want one activity to be performed by next week. So a constraint will be, let's say, if simpler, I will divide, let's say if it's Nagpur Metro, and for package A, there is package A, which is being assigned to one contractor. Now, for package A, it has to be delivered, let's say, in December 2021. So the constraint for this package will be, okay, I don't want this package to be exceed or taking more time than 2021. So you define the constraint in the schedule that, okay, this activity must complete on this date. So there are various constraints. Now this is altogether a different area where there are project planners, project schedule. It's an entire depth area that how you are planning the project and scheduling the project. But just talking about constraints, there are constraints like must finish on, must start on, must complete on. So this constraints, when you are adding it in the software, it will ensure that, okay, this activity, I cannot play with this activity. So if this activity has to be finished on these days, I'll check which activities are connected to the specific one. And then I'll play with those activities. So the project management software, it will ultimately, ensure that this activity has to be completed by this specific time. That's how your constraints are being placed. Once you assign your duration, once you assign your resources, then you optimize the schedule. Basically, optimizing is you are ensuring that, okay, whatever I have planned, it's going, as per my plan. If it's not, then you revise the schedule. So basically, it never happens that, let's say, if you have decided that my project has to be completed in a year, what happens is maybe it will get delayed. Now, when it's getting delayed, you will be able to know it if you are tracking it regularly. So it's not like in the first month you are getting clarity, okay, I might finish it. But let's say if you're in the middle of the project, let's say if the duration is 1 year and you're tracking your project at the 6 months, I think it's, if you're tracking it regularly, you will get an idea, okay, I still have, maybe I don't have the budget to complete the project because I've already consumed a lot of budget. Maybe I don't have time to, complete the project. So this is how you are, tracking it in the middle, just to ensure that there won't be failure at the end. That's why the time management and all is this done. So once you optimize it, you will revise your schedule against the plan, and the process will continue unless you finish the project. So this covers the time. Then comes the cost. I think I've already explained the cost in the last question. So what you do is, I think this will again, give a better idea of how the cost is being monitored. So basically, the cost management, it will include estimating the cost, budgeting it, and controlling it. So first you estimate the cost. You estimate the cost based on maybe your previous project, based on your experience of the estimation team, based on the geographical locations, based on the current material rates. So let's say I want to prepare a house, I want to construct a house, and I have estimated a cost of one CR to it. Now I have a figure 1 CR. Now it's equally important that 1 CR, how I want to divide it. That's where you convert it into several budget. So now you are setting a budget for 1 CR. Let's say you are saying out of 1 CR, I want 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs for the structural works. I'm keeping 20 lakh for finishing. I'm keeping 50 lakhs or the rest of the amount for MEP works. So that's how, once your estimation is done, let's say you have figure, you divide it into several budgets. Now these budgets you load it into the schedule, which I have already shown you. Once all your cost, once every task or every activity of your project has a cost assigned to it, then you track it. Now, once you track it, let's say for 10 days, your cost was 1 CR. Now, as soon as you reach the 11th day, automatically it will trigger, okay, that you have overrun the cost. So the extra cost will be for the extra resource utilization and the extra equipment use, or whatever the cost you have assigned to the project. And that's how you again perform the estimated completion cost. So estimated completion cost is basically, as I have said, it's simple, that budget versus plan. So let's say I have my budget ready. So for 10 crores, as I've said, let's say if my budget is 10 crores and my 10 crore will finish at the end of the project. So the last day of project, basically, my actual versus plan should be 10 CR. So let's say if I've planned it that, okay, 10 crore for each month. So let's say 10 crore has been divided into 12 months. So at around 8 lakhs or 80 lakhs for each month. Now that's how you plan it, for every month. So let's say for the month of January, my plan cost was 1 CR and my actual is 50 lakhs. So either I am slow on the project or either I am fast and I have saved cost. So that's how, you estimate, you plan the cost, you track it, just to ensure that there are no cost overrun. And once you find that there are cost overrun, you ensure that, okay, maybe this is a thing which has led to the excess cost. for the next, next phases, I have to, ensure that I am not exceeding the cost. So this is how the cost management process looks like. You have your estimation, you have your budget. Once you have your budget, you will track it based on, the actual cost. So there are two things here. One is definitely the materials which you are procuring, it will have its cost. Sometimes what happens is, usually at site, the cement and sand, those are ordered at bulk. So the initial cost is high because let's say if you require 100 tons of steel, you can store 100 tons of steel at a start if you have money. Because let's say, the rates are, they are continuously changing. So it's always better if you find it that, okay, the current market is, this is the lowest rate I'll get because I know the rates are going to increase. So I am procuring the entire steel for my project now. So this is how it's affecting the cost. Now, okay, your cost has overrun, but you are still aware, okay, but I'll save it because I have entire steel now with me. There won't be any cost against the steel. So this is how, like, basically the project team, the project manager will plan how he wants to, go ahead with the project. Again, an important factor apart from cost, apart from time, cost, definitely, there's nothing more important than cost. If you want your project to be successful, it means, it's keeping everyone happy. Your investors have earned a lot from it. Plus, as a company, you have, definitely gained some profit. And that's how, again, an important factor of the cost management. Next will be quality. As I mentioned, these are the four figures which are going to be there for the project. You are already defining what quality standards you want for your project. Let's say a simpler example, if I want a house to be constructed, I am defining, okay, I want an entire marble, or I want this brand tiles on my home. So you have already set a standard of your quality. Now, when when you are also, signifying that I want this specific tiles, this specific color. So this is how, basically a quality part will look like. So once you have defined that in a planning stage, okay, I want an Italian marble at my home. Once you award a contract to the contractor, you are ensuring that you are mentioning that, okay, this tiles, this Italian marble is mentioned in the contract. So Italian marble is mentioned in the contract. Based on that, the contractor will purchase the marble. Once he, mobilize that marble on the site, my quality team will ensure that whatever marble I want, now there are so many types of marble. Now they'll ensure that, okay, this is the same marble. They'll ensure the quality. They'll maybe test it for you. And if it passes, that's how we call as a quality control. So once you are assuring, so quality assurance is basically you are assuring that, okay, I want this quality. Assurance is what you have done already because you have signified that I want only these tiles on my project. I don't want anything else. That's how you are assured that your project, is being is really working on a good quality. And how you are controlling it is when the material is being arriving, you are checking it at the site. You are ensuring that whatever material which you have specified, it's the same, and that's how then you will be using it. So this is how, generic terms you use. I mean, the quality is, it's not for the project, but it's for every household items which we use. Now these are the, again, bifurcating qualities into. So you plan it, as I mentioned, you plan the quality techniques. Now this is just for a product, I have said. There can be quality for each and every activity which you have to perform. So there are method statements, defined for how you want a specific activity to be performed. Now every organization will have its quality standards. They will have, every project will have its specific quality plan. So again, coming to, let's say if I want to build a house, now I have a set quality. I want to do a waterproofing for my home. Now my quality techniques will specify which waterproofing I want. Quality technique will specify I want a brickbat Koba waterproofing. Maybe it will specify I want a membrane waterproofing, etc. So that's how you have defined it. Now performing quality assurance is when second thing the contractor will perform it. Now you will ensure that whenever he is doing a work, so let's say if it's brickbat Koba, which bricks he is using, whether he is using the specified bricks in the contract, uh, how he is ensuring that all the quality controls are in place. So this is where you will be reviewing his work. This is where the quality checklist are prepared, where you will be ensuring. So bring back Koba again, it's a huge process. Now at each stage you will check, you will ensure that, okay, he is using the right quality of material, he has done all the prerequisites, he has done, he has completed each and every phase as per the method statement. Now, every project will have its method statement for a specific task. Let's say coming to waterproofing, you have already specified to the vendor that, okay, these are the 10 steps you need to follow when you are doing waterproofing for my house. Now, once you have defined those 10 activities in assurance and in control, you are just checking it whether the contractor has performed those activities or not as per, what was being decided before awarding the project. So this is how a basic, quality thing will look like. Now, just to give a brief, each area which we are discussing. So there are different departments for every project. So there will be separate quality department, there will be separate cost department, there will be separate planning department, because the quantum is huge. It's not just one activity you're tracking, you're talking about 1,000 activities. You're talking about a project which is going to last maybe for 5 years, maybe for 10 years. And that's how these things are there just to ensure that you are making your project successful. And these things are the most prerequisites for any successful projects. So this is how the quality will be. Coming to human resource, again, a part of project management plan, as I have mentioned earlier. So for every project, when you're defining scope, when you're defining quality, you also have to define how much manpower you want, how much people you want. So let's say if you want 100 engineers, you want this many project managers. So that's how you plan it. Depends on the quantum of work. You will define the roles and responsibility. You will, prepare your organization chart. Once that has been approved, you will hire people, you will develop your project team, and then you will manage it. So a generic organization chart, I would just like to show you how it looks like in the organization. So see, this is a detailed organization chart for one of the companies which I have audited. So it will have a detailed board of directors here. It will have a management cell. Then it starts with different different departments. As you can see, a project manager. I know below there is a construction manager. Now again, there's so many people reporting to construction managers. So basically all the MEP heads, all the project engineers, all the site engineers, supervisors are reporting to construction head. Again, when you can see, let's say if there is a scaffolding supervisor, there is a scaffolding inspector, who is helping him with. So this is how a generic, organization chart looks like. So these are the prerequisites of any projects. This is going to be a part of project management plan, as we have discussed. Once this is approved by client, definitely there are going to be changes in this organization structure, but this is how a generic it will look like. Now coming to, so we have completed human resource. So that's how, like, once you prepare your organization chart, you will hire the people accordingly, and then you will manage your teams. Now coming to the communication management, again, I'll say a small phase, but the most important one. Communication within stakeholders, it's equally important. So you have identified your stakeholders. So let's say if I want to prepare one house, my stakeholders will be me, which is a client. Maybe if I have taken a loan from the bank, that is also going to be my stakeholder. So let's say SBI is my another stakeholder. Then there will be a contractor who will be executing the work, is another stakeholder. There can be a design team, or there can be a design consultant who I have hired, basically architect or any engineer who will be my stakeholder. So these are all stakeholders you have identified. Now you're communicating it. So basically bank will have its set of communication only with me. Bank is definitely not going to coordinate with contractors and all others. So that is a communication. So bank is coordinating with me in terms of the money when I want, or I'll be coordinating with bank that, okay, this is the phase I have completed, I want this many amount of money. When I am being a client, I have a set of communication with the contractor. Now set of communication, how you define it here is, let's say you define that there will be a monthly meeting, there will be weekly meetings where we'll be discussing the issues with. There can be a written memos. So let's say if the contractor is facing some issue with the site conditions, now there is a set of communication you have to define. Basically when you're handling the entire project, a verbal communication is of no use. So you need something in written based on what your organizational need is. So that's where there will be a specific form, or let's say there will be a written memo which will be sent via email to me, or which will be sent via courier to my head office address that, okay, this is the issue I'm facing, I want to discuss this with you. Or it can be like, this is the additional claim. So you have first told me that you will be using this material, but now you are, asking me another set of material which will increase cost. So there can be so many things. So that's why again, it's equally important how your communication is, whether you have standard set of communications already been planned and you're using it. So once you communicate it, you distribute the information, you manage all the stakeholders, expectations, and this is how the last process is. It will be, you will be reporting the performance of each, stakeholder, how he has done. Again, the another factor, I think we have completed time, cost, quality. This is going to be risk, and after it, there will be just a procurement thing. So risk management is basically right from initiation to the closure. Now, again, an important factor. Now, whenever you are preparing any project, now initially you sense few risks which are going to impact your project. Now, when there are few risks, you assign those risks. So you plan a risk, you identify that this is a risk, then you perform an assessment of those risks. Now, performing assessment is basically you are identifying how critical this risk is going to be in a project. Now, once this risk is identified, you analyze a control. Okay, oh, what is the control against this? How I'm going to mitigate it? So I'm just going to show you a basic, risk register, which usually is being used for the project. I hope you can see the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is how a basic risk register will look like. You will have the process. Let's say this is a generic, this is a bid evaluation. Now I have a risk name is inadequate technical scoring. Now what happens is you identify the risk. Okay, that this is a risk. You assign a weightage to it. You assign a likelihood impact. What is likelihood is basically I mean how likely the risk is going to occur in a project. Now for bid evaluation, basically this is a risk during when you are awarding a contract to any contractor. So bid evaluation is going to be a huge risk because let's say if you are not evaluating the contractor, and if by any means you have selected a contractor who don't have capability to perform the work, your entire project is on stake. And that's how you define a risk severity here is high. So once you have defined, okay, this is going to be a risk for my project, you have assigned a weightage to it, then this you will be assigning a mitigation plan. So mitigation plan will basically what it will have is I'll ensure that each contract I'm assigning to a contractor, I'm evaluating it technically, I'm evaluating it, commercially, I'm ensuring I'm going site, I'll do the site visits for the work performed for the previous work performed by the contractor. So these are all, few things which you want it to be as a part of the mitigation action, just to ensure that it won't impact your project. So this is how a basic, risk register it will look like. Now, coming to the last one, the procurement management. Again, as I said, it's going to be during the planning stage. You will be planning the procurement how you want to be. Now, there are so many type of projects. Now, there are EPC projects. There are, basically the road projects are build, construct, and handover. So in that case, what happens is a contractor is building the project, he's operating it. So let's say whenever you are seeing a road project, it's been built by one of the contractor. Now there are toll stations where he is collecting the toll money. So that is how he is operating. Now when he is collecting the toll money, he is also bound by doing the maintenance activities for the projects. So let's say if there is an issue with project or issue with the road, then he'll again repair it. So for roads, basically, it's going to be he'll be going to perform the project. He'll going to execute it. He'll operate it. Let's say for 10 years. In 10 years, whatever returns he'll get, that will be his profit. And after 10 years, he'll be handing it over to the government. And whatever tolls and all, then that will be the government revenue. So this is how you basically plan a procurement. So procurement is how you want it to be. You want entire team, procurement team, where sometimes what happens is a client, he just wants someone to execute the work. So basically in a procurement, my procurement strategy will be, I'll be procuring the materials. So I'll be buying the materials at my cost. I'll be only giving it to contractors. Contractor will only have to use it. They'll have to execute it. So you plan your procurement, you conduct the actual procurement where you will be issuing POs, you will be issuing contract to the material suppliers, and then you will, monitor according to what you have planned in the contract. And then once the contractor has finished his work as per the contract agreement. There are so many things in contract agreements. Firstly is the use of materials. There will be payment terms. So payment terms basically is how you want it to be. So let's say he'll be raising an invoice every month. Now every month, once he raises an invoice, you will be checking his invoice. You will be checking the actual work performed by it. So let's say if he's claiming that he has finished 10 crores of work. Now you are ensuring the project engineer will go on site, who will check, okay, he has performed this work. Maybe he has not performed this work, so we won't be paying him for this. So this is how, the payment certification and project procurement will look like. So they'll ensure that, he is being invoicing correctly, he is being paying at the end of the day. And that's how you close the procurement. So I think, yeah, that's it. We have, I think, almost covered everything. This is just the basic of it. And thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much, first of all, for the entire NIT team for giving me this opportunity for the webinar. And if there are any questions, I'm really happy to answer. So please let me know.
Amit Kharode has asked,
Mhm.
what are the environment related assignment we have to take during commencement of any project?
Okay, fine. So the thing is, let's say,
Hello.
hello.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
you
we are
can hear me,
audible.
right? Okay. So environment factors is basically nowadays, as you can see, so let's say if I'm creating an infrastructure project. Now, environment factor is, let's say if I want to, if it's a forest area and I want to, build a road within the forest area. It means I have to cut the trees in the forest area. So that's where, you have to consult the environmental department. Okay, I'll be cutting these trees, but I'll be also ensuring that I'm planting it somewhere. So sometimes what happens is the the example which I'll tell you is the Mumbai Metro project. I think you are aware of it, that they have planned that in the RA area, which is the forest area in Goregaon. So they were planning to have a metro warehouse there, for which they requires to, I think, cut some 1,000 trees. And it was stalled for around 2 years just because environmentalists, there have been many NGOs who were, protesting against it, that this is the only forest in Mumbai and we don't want our trees, to be cut. So these are the things, once the environment clearance, you have not received it, you just cannot go ahead with it. So this is just one of the factor. Now another factor is, let's say if you're building a real estate project or if you're building any construction projects, you have to consider your CO2 emissions. Like you are using steel, you are using concrete, you are using noisy equipments, there will be so much dust which is harming the environment. So these are all factors which we have to consider when you are talking about environment. And that's how there is a health, safety, environment. It's not just about safety. That's how HSE, it covers the last E, which it represents the environment. So these are a few basic factors which you have to consider whenever you are commencing any project. And nowadays I think the green building concept you have heard, there are so many, there are energy efficient buildings where there are separate agencies which rate a specific project against the environment, against the environmental factors. So I think I have answered your question.
Yes, thank you, sir. Uh, Anyone want to ask any question? Okay, Nisha ma'am, you can proceed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for giving such good and valuable information to how to execute the major project within time and planning for that. It's really helped to always participate in future. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you
Now
so
I
much. It's my pleasure. Yeah. Thanks.
thank you, sir. Thank you. Now I request Professor Dhandode, sir, please give the vote of thanks. Hello, Dhandode, sir, is there?
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
On behalf of Department of Civil Engineering, I am very thankful to Mr. Sanket Petkar, sir, Senior Consultant Productivity, Middle East member from UAE, for your knowledgeable words and informative session.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes. I'm thankful to all the faculties and non-teaching staff.
Okay, thank you so
Hello.
much everyone for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
it's,
much
It's pleasure to
for
be here.
giving.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you for giving a
San-
valuable time, sir. Thank you.
Sanket sir.
Yeah.
Sudhir Kapati here.
Yes. Hi, sir. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for your webinar, and you are showing such a nice presentations, which is helpful to our students and as well as faculty also. So, looking forward in the future, we are also want to conduct some webinar. So,
Sure, sir.
thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now I conclude here. Thank you. Thank you to everyone.